High above Payne Bay, visible at sea for many miles, stand 3 beacons. It is believed they predate Columbus' first voyage to North America by centuries. A 500-pound rock crowns 15 feet of carefully laid stone courses. Yet the primitive Eskimo who roamed here when these sea beacons were built were 4 feet tall and lived in holes roofed with whale ribs and animal skins. Professor Thomas E. Lee of Quebec's Université Laval has spent 12 years seeking the builders of Payne Bay's curious ruins. Lee has developed a theory not accepted by some experts. The modern Canadian Eskimo community of Payne Bay has proved a rich source of information and has led Lee to develop his unique theory.
Hello, Thomas Lee.
Modern technology has overwhelmed the ancient lifestyle of the Inuit community. Where once the young learned the ways of the Eskimo from their fathers, now state-run schools provide education, and gradually the old ways are becoming dim memories. Vaguely remembered are the legends of dwarves and giants that roamed the land. The tunic. Legends that reach deeply into the Inuit past.
This is my grandmother, Minnie Anahatak. I'm her grandchild, Lali Anahatak.
Mrs. Minnie Anahatak was born 79 years ago in the igloo of an Inuit winter hunting camp. Professor Lee records tribal memories he believes date back nearly 800 years.
His parents, Anahatak got this story from his parents, and they got this story from the Inuit who lived in Saklak. That's why they got this story.
And they could lift big stones.
Yes, they've heard that they were fairly strong.
What kind of people were they?
There were 2 kinds, big and small one. Even though small one, they were still strong. So there was almost a giant tunics and also the small tunics. Know why they were scared of Halunaks? Because it was the first time they met Halunaks with white skin and bushy beard. They were different than Inuit.
They had beards.
Or maybe they had bushy eyebrows, etc.
I first saw Pamiak Island in 1966. I had 2 Eskimo or Inuit with me, one of whom was an old man by the name of Zachariasi.
Professor Lee has made a series of spectacular discoveries in this seldom visited region of Arctic Canada. He believes that he has identified the legendary tunic. Near the Payne River's mouth lies Pamiak Island.
When I first saw it was in a wild and beautiful setting, in sort of an amphitheater. It was extremely impressive because of its great size and setting. Well, Zachariasi took me across the island and then left me and pointed in the direction in which I should go. And he said it was built. Well, he would express it by saying, before, 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 before.
The central buildings in ancient communities were the longhouses, communal sleeping quarters. The Pamiak Island longhouses provide Dr. Lee with a basis for his theory.
This enormous longhouse was 83 feet long and 20 feet wide inside dimensions. It was rather ship-shaped with the walls out-curving a little bit. And this is the north room, the sleeping quarters. The stones in the walls were very heavy. This particular stone weighs over 1,000 pounds. And here we enter the great hall with 11 fireplaces down the center. And since there were 11 food storage pits on the outside of the building, I think it is very obvious that there were 11 families. And if we suppose that there were 5 people in each family, then we have approximately 50 or 55 people living in this longhouse. And that, of course, means social organization far beyond the scope of the Eskimo. People who lived in this house were, in my opinion, Norsemen. I think that they were hunters from Greenland, came here just the men alone, and probably they married native women and had half-breed children. This was a very rich hunting place. It still is.
Professor Lee believes that a handful of Viking hunters cut themselves adrift from the dying Greenland colony and settled here in North America, eventually fathering a tribe of mixed bloods. Lee's theories have been hotly attacked. His opponents claim the longhouse was built by Eskimo. Yet the nearest forests that could have supplied beams for its caribou skin roof lie 150 miles to the south. They could only have been brought by ships, which the Eskimo never had. The Eskimo were well adapted to this environment. Never would they have built such a drafty, cold structure. Lee believes it served as a primitive palace.
That longhouse was a part of a complex which extends up the coast all the way to Diana Bay, about 70 miles farther north. You find these longhouses at intervals along that distance. And I have thought about this as being a sort of a kingdom.
An Arctic kingdom whose leaders were Norse and whose followers were Stone Age Eskimo. The remains of their crude tent rings still crowd around the longhouse. The Eskimo had much to learn from Iron Age Europeans. Excavating carefully, Professor Lee found the weathered blade of a Norse battle axe.
If we put out from this small bay and sail on a course that is due east, with a favorable wind, in 1 week's time we will come directly into Eriksfjord on the southwest coast of Greenland.
Did a remnant of Eric's people at long last find refuge here in this Arctic fastness? Set on a ridge not 50 yards from the great longhouse, these stone tombs crown Professor Lee's sensational findings. In them, he discovered what he believes are the remains of a primitive Eskimo, a mixed blood, and that of a medieval white male, the first and only pre-Columbian European skull ever found in the Western Hemisphere. Lee's discoveries have stirred fierce controversy. Textbooks are not easily rewritten. Old theories tell us that past cultures lived and died in strict isolation, but new ideas suggest that mankind's evolutionary steps may have been closely linked. In death, the Norse Greenlanders gave birth to a new kind of Eskimo, bigger, stronger, more skillful, whose descendants still hold the land farthest north. A day's journey upstream from the Payne River's mouth, modern Inuit pitch a hunting camp.
Yeah, I saw a lot of tracks. This is the only one we saw.
Centuries pass, but Arctic life does not change.
22 Magnum.
Hunters still travel the river in search of caribou.
I think that we have just begun to get at the answers to the Norse presence in Ungava. We've just scratched the surface. We have not finished with the Payne Lake evidence by any means. We need at least one more expedition in there. And along the coast of Ungava, out this way, we have reports of longhouses that we have not been able to see. I think there may be a great deal of evidence remaining. In fact, I suspect that we will find more things in the interior someday when we do some thorough searching.
On the heights above the camp stands a beacon that points deep into the North American interior.
People say that this was made by the Inuit or the Eskimo. But as you can plainly see, this is a Thor's hammer.
Coming up next, did the Chinese discover America 1,000 years before Columbus? In Search Of continues with a journey into the unknown to meet some daring ancient explorers. Then, 20th Century with Mike Wallace reports on the rise of new hate groups in America. And later tonight, History's Mysteries opens the Odessa File in pursuit of escaped Nazi war criminals. At 8, here on the History Channel, where the past comes alive.